Senator John McCain. Good morning, Senator McCain.
Good morning, my friend.
I'd like to apologize for being late, but I was in the midst of a filibuster and I couldn't stop myself.
I was observing that. As usual, you cowed them into submission.
Do you ever watch Megyn Kelly?
Yeah, oh, yeah, sure.
She's good, isn't she?
I think she's excellent. I think she's really done a lot for their ratings, and she certainly is. I think it shows a great deal of intelligence in the way that she goes about her business.
I like what she says to all her guests. Nice to see you again, or nice to see you, which I like the way she says that.
You never say that.
Because I can't see you.
You never. Well, in the old days, we used to see each other a lot, my friend, and I hope we see each other more when I'm in New York.
I keep wondering if she can actually see them. But I shouldn't be worried about that, should I? So.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, probably not.
So now it's the G7, right?
Well, yeah, G7. I'm sure that has got reduced Vladimir to tears. That he's not going to be able to be in the G8. Take over part of a country, and you don't get to go to the next meeting in some wonderful European capital. In case you missed it this morning, there's a great piece by Bret Stephens called "Apologies for Vladimir." It's starting now. Same old ones that used to apologize during the Cold War for whatever the Russians did, and it's fine. Oh, well, Ukraine, Crimea is part of Ukraine. We don't want to cause any provocation. We actually have people who are saying we shouldn't give light weapons to Ukraine because it might provoke Vladimir, and I'm not making that up.
What would you have done had you been elected president and this came up in your administration?
I would have treated Vladimir for what he is, a KGB colonel who wants to restore the old Russian Empire. And everything that he has done indicates that. And to somehow look into his eyes and see his soul and exchange crosses and say, we're going to reset and tell Vladimir that I'm going to be more flexible when I'm reelected, according to President Obama. It is a total misreading of Vladimir Putin, and this is the result of that treatment. Right now, our options are not very good, but I certainly would be helping this fledgling Ukrainian government, which, by the way, came into being not because of anything the United States did. They got sick of a kleptocrat, corrupt president, by the way, whose son was a dentist, a billionaire. That's a lot of root canals, and they wanted to be part of Europe. That's what this was all about. And now somehow we are alleging that Vladimir Putin has a legitimate claim to part of the country. And by the way, I predicted that he would go to Crimea because he did not want to give up the naval base at Sevastopol, which is his access to the Mediterranean. We may think that it's the 21st century, but he is the one that said the worst catastrophe of the 20th century was the breakup of the Soviet Union, and we had to understand him for what he was and adopt policies in keeping with that realistic view of Vladimir Putin. Then we might have avoided something like this.
Of course, it was George Bush, as you well remember, who was making googly eyes at him, looking into his...
Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm the one that I and others have claimed it. Maybe not originally. I looked into his eyes and saw three letters, a K, a G, and a B.
Well, what would you have done? I mean, to what lengths would you have gone as president to keep him from going into Crimea?
Well, this is a result of what in a situation that he thinks he can take advantage of. I would have certainly
put troops on the ground.
Oh no! Obviously that's not an option. I might have provided them with weapons. I might have stood up more for the people in Ukraine that rebelled against this kind of government that they have. I might have certainly strengthened NATO in a number of ways, including Georgia Moldova into NATO, I would have obviously made it very clear to Vladimir Putin in a variety of ways that he could not do the things he's doing. Well, example, we made a deal with the Russians, helped us get the chemical weapons out of Syria. Meanwhile, Russian planes are landing full of weapons, including that with which to assemble these barrel bombs, which are slaughtering people, innocent men, women, and children all over Syria. The deal was a bad deal. Meanwhile, Bashar Assad continues to gain, and 140,000 people have been slaughtered in Syria, and it's turning into a regional conflict. I can tell you a number of areas where I would have made it clear to Russia that that kind of conduct was not only unacceptable, but we won't make those kinds of deals with them.
Well,
Ronald Reagan, peace through strength, my friend. That's all it's all about.
So these economic sanctions they talk about, that we could not going to work, even in concert with Europe, or
Europeans won't agree because they're dependent on Russian oil. But what we can do is state we are going to have a long-term program to get energy to Europe, which we have abundant supplies of now, so that they can become independent of Russia. Don't expect anything out of the Europeans in response to this, and it may encourage Vladimir to more adventuresome behavior.
You think he has designs on, it's probably a dumb question, but I've asked a lot of them in my career, that he has designs on any part of
the rest of Ukraine,
yeah,
or Moldova, which is not a member.
Well, I was thinking Ukraine.
NATO.
I couldn't think of the word, though.
Or the Baltic countries, where, by the way, using this rationale, have large numbers of Russian-speaking people and Russian.
Do you think he's going to go into any part of Ukraine?
I predicted he would go into Crimea. I think maybe what he's doing now is keeping this build up and then probably draw back, and everybody will heave a sigh of relief and accept a fait accompli of a Russian takeover of Crimea. But I also I think he is calculating the cost-benefit right now of going further into Ukraine and possibly Moldova, where he's already got 1,400 Russian troops. I think he's calculating now, but I think it's less likely, and then all of the apologists will say, thank you, Vladimir, for stopping when you did. And, of course, any further action against them will disappear into the mist.
Digressing here like a drunk at Maureen Dowd's Christmas party, or someone's. Are you all jacked up about the Arizona Wildcats and the NC2A?
Oh, I'm very excited about them. They certainly are playing very well, and with a little bit of bad news we had lately, it's nice to see our Wildcats doing so well.
It's good that you're so supportive. Of course, I guess you would be, but these Arizona teams always like that about you. So.
Well, the Diamondbacks went to Australia and dropped 2 games to the Dodgers and lost their best starting pitcher. But other than that, it's a great opening for the season. The Coyotes were ahead 2-0 over the Rangers last night in case Werner missed it and then blew it and lost in overtime. But other than that, things are going fine.
It's always nice to talk with you. Again, I apologize for being late, but
no problem. Always good to be with you.
Senator John McCain here at the IMUS program. 12 minutes now till the hour.